Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5 Minute Reedmaker. If you're watching this on YouTube, would you go ahead and click subscribe or even notify? That way you always know when I drop a new episode, and it's easier for other people to find my channel and learn to be better reed makers and become happier oboists and musicians. Thank you. Today we are doing a reed repair shop episode. Sarah's reeds are all beautifully constructed and so consistent and so careful, and I can see that she has done her troubleshooting just exactly the way that I would do it, and yet the reeds are so flat and so short and so tiny that she was at a loss as to what to do. And although I was not actually able to fix the reeds that Sarah sent, I think that we came to some really useful and valuable conclusions, and I think that if you yourself have ever struggled with reeds that were too short and too flat, this might be helpful for you. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for sending these reeds. I'm really excited to take a look at them. These reeds, as you say in your note, are all very short. They're very flat. And I can feel your frustration as I look at these reeds. They're so consistently and beautifully made. It's really clear that you know what you're doing. And the things that I see on these reeds that are sort of weird, I understand exactly why you've done them, right? The choices that I see that you have made are almost exactly the choices that I would have made too. And yet, this is not a sustainable situation for you. You can't be playing reeds that are this flat. So let's see what I can do to help you here. You indicate that these reeds are on Glotan cane at a 10 to 10.5 diameter. It comes to you gouged, and the shape that you're using is Mac Pfeiffer. These are on Stevens brass staples, number 2, and these 3 are all on 47mm tubes, although you indicate that you've been experimenting with 46mm tubes as well, presumably to bring the pitch up, which makes perfect sense. And you're describing reeds that play pretty well, but they don't crow a C. Indeed correct. This one is crowing a flat B flat, for example, that they're very short, flat reeds that become short reeds, which is such a common problem, right? Because we know how to fix flat reeds, we clip them, except that's not working for you because this reed is down to 68mm. Your rooftop actually starts at 63, looks like. And on this other side, it's even stubbier. It might almost be as low as 62.5, where the gutter of the rooftop begins. The overall length is below 68. So frustrating, right? And it's crowing so flat, and when I play it without, biting it up to pitch, without helping it, everything does sit below pitch, and this is the most comfortable of your reeds. This is the one that has been that, as you describe it, has been played through several rehearsals and a couple of performances. And the other ones are even more dramatically low. I'll just play them real quickly for our listening audience. Right? Everything is sitting significantly below pitch, and these reeds do feel easy and pleasant to play. The response is lovely. The amount of resistance is pretty comfortable. I want to like them, but I feel exactly the thing you're feeling, where they're so flat you almost can't work with them. And this is the one that is the newest, the one that you haven't played in rehearsals or performances yet. And I can easily, without effort, play those a full half step flat. So my full sympathies are with you here. You mentioned that this is a Mac Pfeiffer shape, which the version of the Mac Pfeiffer that I have is for the Reeds and Stuff template, and so it is I don't know that it's very accurate to the hand shape, but what I know about that shape is that it's quite narrow at the throat. And yet I notice on your reeds that they appear pretty wide right at the throat. So I'm really looking for diagnostics here, looking for ways to help you solve this, even though I may or may not be able to solve these specific reeds because they are already so short and so thin, right? So I'm looking for ideas for you. Because my version of the Mac Pfeiffer is so narrow down in the throat and the below the thread area, I actually have to wind them very short. And you didn't mention in your note how long you are winding these blanks, but because of the width right at the thread, right at the throat, I hypothesize that you're winding quite short, maybe at like 72, 71 and a half even. And so one of my first suggestions is, can you wind up a little bit longer to give yourself a little bit more narrowness here and a better chance at pulling the pitch back up to where it belongs? And of course, you'll feel free to tell me if I'm off base, but that's my first hypothesis. And this one, reed number 5, looks especially dramatic to me. It just looks sort of fat. And compared to, let me pull out some of my guys over here. This is just a day 1 read. It's not a finished read, but I'm looking at the difference between the throat dimension here on yours and on mine. This is a Joshua 2 shape, which does allow for a nice long wind. Or here's another one. This would be on the Gilbert -1N, again, a narrower shape. And I'm just looking at how different it feels right at the throat. So thought 1 for you is, if you can, I might try winding up a little bit longer. Then I spent a couple of minutes looking at not just the shortness measurement that we've gotten to here, but also at the thickness. And I'm not sure if you're using a micrometer in your own work, but generally my hearts live between like 45 and 52, 46 and 52, something like that. But here on yours, the heart is already short, of course, but you're down as thin as 40. I had one of these clock in somewhere in the mid 30s as well. This is down around 40 as well, right in the center of the heart. So I have a hypothesis about the thinness of your heart being part of the cause of how low your reed is. Now, why do we scrape the heart out so much? We scrape out the heart a ton to get to make the reed easier. And I love how easy these reeds are, but I wonder if there's a way to find that ease somewhere else in the reed, besides just in the heart. Where was this really thin one? Was it reed number 5? Or number 4 even? Who knows? Sorry, I'm not going to spend time I'm not going to spend precious video time measuring all of your hearts, but believe that I did that and that they're noticeably thin. So thoughts 1 and 2, and these are things for you to do prior to getting to this point in the reed, is think about winding longer and think about leaving more bulk in the heart for longer. But now here's why this makes sense. I'm looking at your tips now specifically, and I'm going to go to your newest reed, the one that is very flat. And if we take a look here with the plaque. There's a real profile to the shape of this tip. Pencil, where's a pencil? It looks to me as though the thinnest part of this tip is here, kind of up in the center. I can see your nice strong cut in there, which makes perfect sense. That's where I would have made a strong cut in too. But there's a surprising amount of bulk in this area and this area of the tip. And this tendency, look, we can see it over here too. The thinnest part is up in the top middle. And it's quite heavy in these regions. And so here's my hypothesis. My hypothesis is that you're getting response by making the tip of the tip the very thinnest part, especially in the middle of the reed. But the reed remains resistant because of all of the bulk that's happening at the sides of the tip. And because there's resistance, you're scraping out the heart to reduce that resistance. And then the reed gets flat. So you go into the windows and scrape the bejesus out of them to make the heart think it's thicker. And like all of those steps are exactly the things that I would have done too, except for the initial problem, which is that I think you have too much thickness in the sides of the tip and too much thinness in the center of the tip. So I'm going to try to take this reed, this one that has been played the least, and I'm really trying to zoom in here so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. I'm going to try to really reshape your rooftop by not just cutting in at the rooftop, but really making a point of scraping out this area so that there's a clear gradation from thickest in the center to thinnest out at the corner. I want the area right above the heart in the sides of the tip to be part of the thinnest part of the reed. And I wonder whether it is possible to recover this reed by doing that. And it is possible, Sarah, that all of these problems are, that on all three of these reeds, you've already gone a little bit too far and I can't bring them back to being reeds, but I'm gonna try, okay? So flat. And as we've mentioned, these reeds are already super short. So like I need to be very, very delicate with anything that I do. But the thing that you've tried to get by gutting out the windows, which is contrast between the heart and the tip, I'm going to try to get by working the side of the tip. So here I go. Just a really careful cut in right at that gutter. And then I'm just ever so gently going to pat the kitty up toward the top of the reed. And it's remarkable, right? Even though this reed was so super thin, I think there's a surprising amount of cane up here in the wrong place. And that this was the root of your problem. I am not positive that I'm going to be able to make the sides of the tip thinner than the area that you have thinned in the middle of the tip. But that's what I'm going to try to do, and I believe that it will give you stability, and that it will give you, that it will help you to bring the pitch up. And this thing that I'm doing, or this thing that I noted, where the thin spot, the thinnest place is in the middle of the top of your tip, that is definitely something that went through on every reed. There was a theme in each reed. And I think it is your most important problem. And I think that it is a problem that if you address it earlier in the process, you won't end up with reeds that are quite so short and stubby. So let's see if what that did. I'm just gonna crow. Well, it's interesting. I've lost the crow, but that beep that I'm hearing now is at a B. It's no longer a low B flat, which I think is kind of exciting. I'm gonna give it the tiniest clip just to see if we can get that crow back. Nope, no crow at all, but I'm gonna play it on the oboe. Okay, so we're still super flat here, and it doesn't yet sound better than it did to me. What's going on here? I'm going to do a little bit of quick measurement. How is it possible that on this reed, whoa, what's happening here? On this blade, this lower blade, the middle of your heart is actually very healthy. It's up in at 47, 48 almost. And on this other blade, it's at 36? I can feel that with my fingers. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, I identified a problem on this reed specifically, and that I didn't see on the other ones, and I'm going to look at those in a second. But notice the opening here is not actually symmetrical. The blade that you see on top is relatively flat, and the blade that you see on the bottom has a deeper curve to it. And when you look down at the overlap down here, I can clearly see the lower blade, the away blade, visible on the left-hand side, which is what I want. But over here, I can also see the away blade slightly visible on the right-hand side. This reed, your number 4 reed, is an overlap problem that I did not diagnose in my initial looking at. And that is dramatically a reason why, even though you scraped and scraped and scraped, the opening never got itself organized, because your cane is holding onto itself like this. And the away blade is always going to be squeezing the near blade. I know you can't really see that with my hands. There we go. The away blade is always squeezing the near blade and forcing it to be too open. Ooh, I'm going to set this guy down right now, and I'm going to look at the other ones, specifically looking at that overlap. Reed number 6 looks perfect in terms of the overlap. I can see the away blade on the left, and again I can see the away blade on the left, and I can see how that overlap is equal on both sides. So I'm excited about that. And reed 5, same deal. Looks great with the away blade visible on the left on both sides. And the opening looking really manageable and easy. And here's our contrast back to reed number 4, which looks like this and doesn't close as nicely. Okay. Great. I'm gonna, let's take a look at any of them, right? Reed number 5, for example, I believe shares the same problem as reed number 4, the problem that I identified and tried to fix, And let's see if that is true. It's less dramatic, but as I look at this, zoomed very close, I can see that there's a very thin place at the very tip of the tip, but that the contrast between the thinness of the windows and the thickness of the heart is actually greater than the contrast at the tip of the tip. Let me crow and play this guy. I can't remember if I've done that. It's crowing an A, if you can believe that. And it is playing only a little bit flat. It's relatively easy to play. And again, once I tweak this, once I slide this plaque in, I am again tempted to see if we can raise pitch by making sure that this area of the reed is thinner than the center. And again, as I mentioned with the first reed, reed number 4, I'm not sure whether this will work or not, because it could be that these reeds are too far gone. But the thing I'm going to try is cutting in at the gutter, thinning the side all the way to the corner, on both sides, because especially on this blade, it's funny because I see the strength of the cut-in that you tried to produce there. Like, the transition doesn't look unreasonable between the heart and the tip, but it really doesn't look thin in the tip per se. And look at how much wood there is when I really dig in. Oh yeah. Okay. We're still crowing an A, but the crow feels a little bit different to me now. I'm going to clip. There's a B flat, clip again. I know the reed's already 68 millimeters, but we're just going to keep clipping. We've made it up to a B. Do I dare? I'll clip one more time. Okay, I made it to a C. I had to bite a little to get there. So I'm watching my tuner. I'm not wild about this reed. I really am not, but I am able to play it at pitch with only a little bit of muscle on my part. And I think what I'm going to do now that I've clipped back, this many times, I'm going to go in and do the same thing again, just the corners and sides of the tip. Because I think that's the only way I know to bring a reed around to make it vibrate at the tip. But I'm going to reiterate here already that I think that the reason we are at this point, that the reason it's gotten itself to be this thin and this flat and this short, is a combination of a few factors. One is that you've wound, that I think, I hypothesize, that you've wound pretty short. And if you were able to nudge your blank making just a little bit longer, then you would have a little bit more resistance at the throat, which would mean that you didn't have to build as much resistance up here. And you wouldn't feel like you were suffering so much from the resistance up here. Having just a little bit more narrowness down in this region, I think, will help bring your pitch up. Then, I really admire all of the work you have done in here, because all of your corrective measures are exactly the same things I would have done. Digging out behind the heart, thinning and thinning and thinning the tip, clipping back. They're all on track. You're just not quite getting there. And my hypothesis is that the original sin on these reeds, besides being wound a little short, is that you didn't really get the tip thin and sloped outward toward the sides and corners before you started getting vibration elsewhere. And so the whole thing ended up just being a little bit out of balance, and a lot of your response is coming from back here instead of up here. That's a B flat crow. That's a B crow. I'm clipping again. That's a sea crow. Okay. Am I wild about this reed? I am not. Is it... Woo! Is the heart so thin that I'm not at all surprised as to why I don't like this reed? Yes, that is a problem. But I'm looking for root causes, and I doubt that you went into this reed with your knife going with the goal of removing all of the bulk in the heart. I think that you probably felt like you had to go there because you weren't getting vibration higher up. And the reason you weren't getting vibration higher up is that your tip was still heavy. Okay, what I'm trying to do is to correct this balance by thinning the tip, and I'm not quite able to do it just because the reed was already so short, already so thin, already so finished, that I'm not having luck actually fixing it. But I am feeling pretty okay about the diagnosis. I just can't repair it because I think it's too far gone. If I remember correctly, I have not actually touched this reed, and I'm a little disinclined to. Because it is the least problematic of them. And the most finished. I'm just going to look. But look, here again, you can see, like, here's where your rooftop lives. But then there's all of this cane up in the tip, and this is the thinnest part here in the middle. I wonder if I could just help the corners without taking as much as I did on the others. And I wonder if that would change anything here. I'm using really almost no pressure with my knife and just directing it to the exact region that I want. It's almost like a halo of thinness right immediately above the heart, and then extra thickness up above that. And my overall hypothesis is that if earlier in your process you can pay better attention to the slope within the tip and the contrast between the tip and the heart, when there's still a lot of bulk in the heart available, when there's still a lot of length in the tip available to work with, I think you'll have a lot more luck. Okay, so I thinned that. I'm not sure that I love what I did. Mostly, I feel like what I'm giving you in this video is sympathy and validation that once you're at this point, once you're at a reed that is a little too short and a little too easy and a little too flat, you're doing the right things. This like ton of cane that you've taken out behind the heart in each case, like, is smart. And obviously it's working for you to the extent that you can get like a reed like this to function and to play in the orchestra. This was the best of them before, it remains the best of them. And so basically, I'm sorry that I was not able to be more help and to send you back like 3 beautiful, completed, solved reads. But I hope that you found something valuable in this diagnosis. The takeaways that I would propose would be winding longer, making sure that the tip is thinner sooner before you take the heart at all, and really working within the slope of the tip so that the initial cut in at the rooftop is only the beginning of the slope. You do your whoosh cut in and then keep getting thinner out toward the sides and toward the corners. If it would be helpful, let me just quickly throw a day 1 scrape on this reed for you and show you what I'm talking about. My long scrape is focused at the tip area, right? I'm like working hard to create slope, but only up in that like top 7 or 8 millimeters of the blank. My blank is a 73 millimeter blank. And then as I go backward, I'm just sort of glossing over that heart area. All I'm doing is taking bark off. I clip it open. I dip it because it's super dry still. But the thing that I'm trying to do at this point is make the vibrations happen at the tip. So I cut in, and with each cut in, I'm trying to make sure that I follow through. The cut in happens, and then I press out all the way to the corner. 73 millimeter blank, and I'm putting my rooftop at 65. So there's a lot of real estate up here in the tip, and I'm doing that by design. I don't like working with a tip that is already short and scary. I like having a lot of runway because A, I can make mistakes, and B, like, even though this is not a finished tip by any stretch, I'm sure that it beeps and possibly crows. And that's just because I put a clear cut in and slope. I hope this has been helpful. This has been a Reed Repair Shop episode. If you would like to have your reeds looked at and analyzed and worked on and sent back to you all sanitized and clean and hopefully improved, you could find information about that on my website, jennetingle.com, which is also, of course, where you could order reeds or cane, or pre-order my new book, or reach out to me with questions that I could answer for you in a future 5 Minute Reedmaker episode. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.